Hey everybody, welcome back to Nicsminibikes. If you watch my videos, you know this trike has some wicked torque steer. So today we're just going to do a bunch of gear changes and see if that makes a difference. I'm not exactly counting on it, so I'm not really expecting it to make a big enough difference to be okay with it, but we're going to try it anyway. So we're going to try different size gears behind the torque converter here, and then we have different size gears for the rear sprocket on the back. And then after we do all that and we decide we still don't like it, I got stuff to straight chain it. I got a 10-tooth centrifugal clutch to put on it, and then we still have the gears for the back that we can swap around with that too. So we got a lot of options to try. Come along for the ride. Let's get to it. So if you don't know, a torque converter starts out at 3-to-1 gear ratio, and then that's multiplied by the gear ratio you have behind it. If you start with a 3-to-1, you have a 10-tooth behind your driven, and a 50 on the back, that's 5-to-1. So that means this would be taken off at a 15-to-1 gear ratio, which is a lot of torque. 15-to-1 is crazy torque. And on a mini bike, that's all right, that's nice. That's where you get all your takeoff. But on this, not so much, because it does this. So in that video, we got the torque converter, a 10-tooth behind the driven, and a 56 on the back. So that's 5.6 to 1 behind the 3. Multiply that together. So that means in that video, this trike was trying to take off with a 16.8 to 1 gear ratio, which is a lot. So we're going to drop that number, try to get it closer to, like, I don't know, 12. I think I got enough gears to try to get it down to about a 12-to-1 with the torque converter. And then once we do all that and we decide that it's still doing what it's doing and nothing really changed, just not as bad probably, we'll straight chain it. And I got gears to go, I think I got a 56 and a 40 for the back. So we'll be able to go to a 5.6 to 1, which is pretty good. That's a pretty solid gear. And then I got that 40. That'll put us at a 4-to-1, which I don't know if that'll be enough to move this like you want it to and not be hard on that clutch. And then just keep in mind, the only thing done to this motor is an exhaust and air filter adapter. That's it. That's all I've done to it. And that's all I really plan on doing to it. I don't really want to do anything else to this motor, because this is supposed to be a cruiser. It's not supposed to be 60-70 mile an hour trike. So that's enough yapping. Let's get to changing some gears. This first different set that we have on here is a 56 on the back, and I think it's a 16 on the front. So on takeoff, that should give us about a 10.5 to 1. Well, let's take this down to the bottom of the driveway and we'll see what kind of torque steer it has with this gear ratio on it. So all of my parts for this video, except for the chain, the clutch, and the master links, came from Kart Supply. If you haven't checked out Kart Supply, there's links to all of his stores down in the description of all my videos. My rear tires on this build came from Kart Supply. My front tire, my front rim came from Kart Supply. My brakes came from Kart Supply. A lot of parts on this trike came from Kart Supply. So I lied earlier in the video, and I think that's a 14-tooth behind the driven on that torque converter, because that's my 16 sitting right here. So I think that's the 14, which gives us a 4-to-1 behind the torque converter. Times that by 3 for the ratio taken off with the torque converter, and you get 12. So it's taken off at a 12-to-1 in that last clip. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the driven off the torque converter. I'm going to swap that gear behind the driven to that 16 and see what we get there. So here we go. All right, so I definitely did this backwards. I mean, probably would have been best to do whatever was going to take the most chain first, which would be the biggest gears. Nobody said I was the sharpest tool in the shed. So we're going to take this nut off, this bolt out, and this doesn't quite come off with this on here, but we can get it out and we can get that shaft out the backside and get that gear changed. There's a sprocket that was on there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So yeah, it was a 14. Kart Supply does sell different sprockets for behind your torque converter. It's nice to have options. So we got this guy. My whole bearing came off on my shaft and my sleeves. We'll just slide that back in. Got a washer. We got our gear. Don't forget your key. I feel like this is going to be a pain in the butt. You got your washer with the slot for the key. And now that I got that on there, struggling, I realize I can't put the belt on there because of how close it is to the frame down here. So that's neat. Let's take it off again. Whoever designed this, it's a knucklehead. Now we'll pop out this master link. this chain off of here. It's a brand new chain. So we're going to just use the same chain, and we'll just patch pieces in off the new one. So we're going to need a whole 1 link out of this new chain. Like, man, I got to have some 40 laying around. I found this in the garage. Really, I need a half link for testing purposes. I don't really care if I have a half link, but I don't have one. So that's what I'm going to need there. And really, I just need this little piece right here. That's it. We want to take that out of a new chain. So we're going to grab this. I'm going to pop the pin out of this one. Just that piece there. A couple new master links. We'll use the original one. And a new one. They'll just be side by side there, not a big deal. It's just for testing. I wouldn't leave it like this if I was going to leave it, but I'm not anticipating leaving it. There, we got our chain on, and I'm going to have to tension up that motor. So I'll get that done, and I'll bring you back when we're ready to give it a test. All right, so we did a gear swap. We got a 16 behind the driven on the torque converter. That gives us a 3.5 to 1 behind the torque converter and a 3 to 1 on the torque converter, giving us, I think it's a 10.5 to 1 gear ratio on takeoff. So let's see if that made a difference. So that gear ratio made quite a bit of difference. It was still doing it, but it wasn't nearly as harsh as it is with the other gear ratios we've tried so far. That actually gave me a little bit of hope. We might find a gear ratio that is doable. So let's leave that 16 tooth on there and let's drop the rear down to that 40 and see how she acts. I wish I could say it's going to be the same as changing the front sprocket, but it's different, so we'll record that too and get that in the video. Then after that, we'll skip the swaps and just go straight to the other ratios and let you know what we got. But for now, let's get that 56 switched out for the 40. Just gonna pop this chain off. Then we just got these 6 bolts here to take out. On my setup here, they are 8mm. We'll just tighten these down. It's going into aluminum. I don't know if it's staying, so we're not going to go crazy tight on them. Got all those done. We'll get that chain on there and we'll trim it. I'm going to have to go through the whole process of loosening up the motor again and tensioning the chain. I'm not going to show that, but that's basically all you do to swap that sprocket. You'll have to adjust your chain length and your tension every time you do a gear change, really, because it's going to take a different length chain and the tension is going to be different. So I'm going to take care of that and then I'll bring you back. All right, so we got the rear sprocket switched from a 56 to a 40. We still got the 16 tooth on the front behind the driven on the torque converter. That gives us a 2.5 to 1 gear ratio. So you multiply that by 3, the torque converter starts at, and that puts us at 7.5 to 1 on takeoff, which is still pretty good. But I'm starting to worry about the longevity of the belt on the torque converter at that point. But we'll try it and see what she does. I think it's probably going to be pretty good. So I was planning on going through all the gears, changing the 16 to the, I don't know what it was, a 14 I think, and then to a 10. And then I was planning on ending up having to straight chain it to get rid of that torque steer, but I'm not mad at that last one. It still does it, but just barely. That's pretty manageable, if you ask me. I am kind of leery of the belt now, because it's having to work pretty hard to get it moving, but I'm definitely not mad at how the torque steer was acting on that route. And I think I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm not going to try the other gears. I'm not going to go straight chain. I'm going to leave the torque converter. I'm going to leave that 40 on the back and the 60 behind the driven. So we're going to leave it at that 2.5 to 1 behind the torque converter. And it's going to take off at about 7.5 to 1. It's just a cruiser, so we're not trying to take off like a rocket. We're not trying to go 1,000 miles an hour. We're more happy with rideability than speed and takeoff and all that on this particular build. Make sure you hit that link in the description. Check out our merchandise. We got hats, shirts, hoodies, bags, a lot of cool stuff there. Make sure you hit the links in the description for Kart Supply. His Amazon store is down there. His eBay store is down there. And his actual website is down there too. Check him out. He's got wheels, clutches, chains, sprockets, torque converter sprockets with 5/8 bores. Wheels, we got that front wheel from him there. He's got the billet 5-spoke wheels like Go Power Sports sells. He's got those. He's got hubs. He's got a lot of stuff. Go check him out. Pick you up something from him. Make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. And we'll catch you on the next one.